All right, so today I am up early in the sense that I've been up around 7, 8 o'clock, had everything all dealt with, fed all the doggies, and they're all eating their food, and they all had their raw diets and everything. And as usual, I feed all my dogs raw. They eat about 350 pounds a month. So this is David. As you can see, David is right here. Hi, silly boy. David is right here. David is, David, hi, silly boy. So I'm going to just step back here so you guys can see him. David is 200 pounds. He's 3 feet 2 inches at the shoulders. And he is right here at my, David, hi, silly boy. Hi, silly boy. So he's right here, as you can tell. He's a rather, hi, silly boy. So I'm going to give him a hug. Hello, silly boy. Watch his right paw position. You can see in his shoulders. Hi, silly boy. He's got a little bit of nervousness here in the apprehension. Hi, silly boy. So he's purposely letting me pick up his weight. So I'm just going to give him a reset. Hi, silly boy. You're okay. So it's always good to give your dog affection, and the affection allows your dog to feel that they're safe, right? So a dog like David, who is on 750 milligrams of trazodone, 80 milligrams of Prozac for 2 years, turned down by every big breed dog rescue in North America, literally every master dog trainer, every hi Ann, oh hey, every dog trainer, everything, you know, just like it was with Walter and Tonka, turned down by whatever you're saying, Walter, is turned down by Dr. Rebecca Ledger and all these other people, Ian Dunbar and etc., saying that dogs like David are too dangerous. David has attacked 16 people, just like Walter did. Walter has attacked 16 people as well. And so what ends up happening is people become very afraid of a dog who's quite gigantic, having an ability. So we see this part here where David is playing because he knows that I'm animated. And you can see the head behavior on him. It's a predatorial behavior, right, where he turns to do so to engage and to break the prey's neck, all right, and the spine, right, to break that spine. So I have been attacked. I have been cornered and picked up by a Great Dane, physically picked up off the ground, and I'm almost 190 pounds, and I have been shaken, and it's extremely frightening because the amount of power is a very mechanical feeling, but it's organic. Like, again, obviously a wild animal is shaking you all over the place versus where a mechanical aspect has a predictive pattern of behavior that you can go, okay, I'm on a machine. So even situations like this with David, and I'll talk about behavior, and I'm going to also talk about some of the silly things I've read in some dog aggression groups that I haven't been kicked out of yet. So we see David here, he's almost 200 pounds, so he's literally dropping his weight down on me. So I'm just going to step back a bit, right? So he's got a lot of power that's going on. At 200 pounds, he's generating a lot of huge momentum throw on that. It's not a part of him being dominant or whatever, because if I let go of him, he wants to engage. Because there's no threat of the relationship. There's no need for me to be dominant. He knows I feed him. He knows I walk him on leash. He knows I can control him on retractables, as you've seen 2 dogs at once. So he knows that I have the competency to make him feel safe. So when we're fighting and playing with stuff like this, again, he's 200 pounds, right? When we have that part, that's it. He thinks he's in trouble because the toy comes out of his mouth. He's had times where he's interacted with his humans in his past, right? He was on trazodone, 750 milligrams of trazodone, 80 milligrams of Prozac for 2 years. Not a single trainer or behaviorist would work with him at all. They were afraid he was going to kill them, right? So it's, of course, you got to be afraid, but you also got to be able to give your dog the ability to trust that you are not going to hurt them. A dog like David, he comes to me completely unknown, right? I have him all weaned off of medication because it's stupid for me to take a dog with my skill and work with them while they're on medication. It's a waste of my time. Dog like him, my criteria has to be 150 pounds, has to have attacked at least 6 to 9 people. My personal preference is at least 12 attacks on human beings. All the resource guarding and all that hating other dogs, it's expected, right? The dog already has dysfunctions already where he's attacking human beings, trying to kill them, literally trying to kill them. He's going to have she's going to have other dysfunctions, right? Here's Lincoln coming over here. Hi, silly boy, Lincoln. Lincoln, you can see, is quite a bit smaller. He's 160 pounds. It's about 31, 32 inches at the width. You can barely see him in the screen. So I'm going to point the screen down a bit. So you see, I don't let go of Lincoln at all times. Just to let him know, because there's a little bit of a safety issue for him when he's around a dog like David, because David can knock him over. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. So I always use a tone of language so that the dog hears that I'm not upset. When something like that happened accidentally, I keep the tone of voice so that the dogs understand I'm not upset, I'm not concerned about it. It's a normal course of action because I'm using regular language. Hi, silly boy. So now David's concerned about it. He comes on to see what the noise was. We just had, dinner, breakfast, all that kind of stuff. So he comes to see what the noise is. He doesn't know what it is. I'm going to hold him so I maintain a steadiness on his hand. And by maintaining a steadiness on his hand, it allows David to understand that he's feeling safe. Because I'm not moving around. I'm not getting nervous. I'm not fidgeting. I'm not standing like this. You see a lot of people when they take the leash, and I'll show you. It's raining outside. Just give me a few seconds. I'm going to grab a leash. Hello, silly boy. Hi, Minky. Hi, silly. Hi, silly boy. You're okay. No, just wait. You're all right. I'm just there. So I'm going to grab a leash. Then I'm going to just show. No, we're not going outside. Hi, Minky. So here's a couple of leashes here, right? This is such a short leash that came with David. Oh no, with Anthony, who I have to get back from Tales of Freedom Canine Rescue, who have absconded with him. So these are the leashes, right? So the dogs feel excitement and all that stuff. But we make the approach of just regular language. So whenever the dogs are beside me, I'm just going to touch them. It allows them to feel that they're safe. Truly. Anybody who tells you, well, if you have a dog that's angry at another dog they come to you, push them away. Don't coddle them. That's the most stupidest thing ever. You're literally telling your dog that everything I've done for you for your whole life and day, taking care of you, fed you, everything, loved you, all that stuff, that one time that you need me to help you when you're most afraid, I'm going to push you away. That's the worst kind of, you see how that alpha kind of mentality happens? And it's generally with trainers who have a limited level of comprehension, lower intelligence level, and the lower ability to comprehend emotions. So of course, when you can't comprehend emotions, you go straight towards the alpha aspect because it's easy, it's streamlined, it's very narrow. We know a lot of people, especially men, that have quite the alpha personality. If that doesn't work with you to hang out with a guy who has an alpha personality, imagine how your dog feels having the childlike comprehension of somebody who literally has them as a hostage. Stockholm syndrome controls your entire life. And that one time, remember when you needed help from your father or your mom, your dad or your mom, you asked them for help and they said, no, go do it yourself. Remember how much that hurt? Your dog doesn't understand how to comprehend that level of complex emotions. So then they core down to the point of really, let's go hurt. No, let's go and defend ourselves. If my parent can't protect me, then I need to protect myself, and I need to do so the only way I know how, which is to growl, to bark, to lunge, and then to attack. And then there's a successive aspects of biting that a dog will do. It's a single bite, a double bite, a triple bite, a quadruple bite. It's never 5. If it is 5, it's going to be broken up into 2 and 3 or 3 and 2 bites. It's a cognitive behavior that the dog does when they're negotiating. It's relative to the dog's personality on how many times they bite you. The nipping, the strength. Anybody who's worked with me, anybody who's hired me, if they tell me that their dog has bitten, I will always say how many types of bites, how many bites, what happened, where on the body, did the dog go for your arm, for your groin, for your face, where is the situation? It always relates to how your dog feels. We're not going to punch somebody in the stomach when we mean to punch them in the head. We have a reason why we do stuff. The aspect about working on leash as well, when you have your dog on leash, this is a proper way to hold it. This is actually the proper way to hold it. Anyone who tells you don't let your dog dominate you on leash is, again, low-level comprehension when they come to training. None of these people can work with the dogs I work with. Look at the links. All those dogs, no treats or medication. Axel, extremely dangerous in 36 minutes, literally by myself, and he's dog aggressive, and he's around my other Danes in that video. 36 minutes, literally. Loki, the Shiba Inu, I'm literally predicting his behavior before he does so because I can tell by his body traits and his structure of cogency and how he's processing his environment circumstantially that he's about to be afraid and start looking around. So then I create complementary behavior on my end, codependent, egocentric behavior, so that he understands that I'm here to do what he's okay and safe. And by doing so, by presenting to Loki that I was maintaining a safety aspect of surroundings, it allowed Loki to start looking around himself due to the trust issue as he does nonverbal fluency and interacts with me, whether or not I'm paying attention. And when he does feel that way, Loki will look back and forth. And you'll see that I predicted ahead of time. I have an academic in one of the universities who will no longer talk to me. When I talked to him about that, he tried to dispel what I said. I said, go ahead and take a look at my video. So it doesn't make you great, it doesn't make me a special person, it just makes me say, watch your intuition, you can see what happens with dogs. It's really, truly that simple. Absolutely, completely simple. If you can finish someone's sentence, if you can tell when your dog has to go pee, then start paying attention to them, not listening for the, avert eye contact, silly. Dogs are nonverbal. Aggregate all the sounds that they make up in one single day, 24 hours, it's less than 2 minutes. That aggregation of language that your dog is saying, less than 2 minutes. That means it's nonverbal communication between you and your dog 24/7. How do dogs start chasing prey? Or wolves chase prey and they turn on a dime. If you watch them carefully or you watch the video and replay, you will see one starting to turn or the one starting to drift off a bit. That's a two-dimensional peripheral vision of what they're seeing of going on as they're running back and forth. They're keeping peripheral on this part, just like Bruce Lee and any really good MMA fighter. They're watching peripheral vision as they walk by in a two-dimensional format. They're processing what's going on while they're creating a three-dimensional stereophonic conflation of vision and of cogency of what their environment is. When the dog then sees what's going on, they go, okay, wow, they can see peripherally. So if you have dogs that do search and rescue or those games, I can teach you how to make your dog even much more peripherally aware of their environment. And it's very simple by addressing the complexity of behavior and the simple structure. And that simple structure is allowing your dog to feel protected. It's much more complicated than that, highly, highly textualized. What people have said is quite technical when I get into a bit more of that structure of consciousness and the emotive templates, and I tend to lose people. So what I'm saying in that part is, and I don't know who the idiot that said stop to me. If you think you know what you're doing, come over here and show me how talented you are without using treats or medication. The difference in the world has to be, we have to realize that there is an actually intelligent modern way to be dog woke about training. The biggest issue is understanding the simplicity of the codependent relationship that we have. It's cross cohabitation, right? Cross-species cohabitation. So I always used to say that the development, because the scientists are somewhat naive by saying we domesticated the dog. It's impossible, as I said. You take a domesticated dog intact, able to breed, leave that dog out in the wild and let them hang out with other wild dogs for 3 generations. The complete gene structure of comprehension of domestication will have been completely bred out of them. But you can take an extremely dangerous wild feral dog, bring them home, like the Formosan mountain dogs. For those of you who have dogs from Taiwan, you can bring them back home, put them into your home, and within weeks and sometimes months, you can domesticate that wild feral dog. So that completely destroys the scientist and Temple Grandin's opinion and perspective as an immature, limited comprehension of what the fundamentals are. You can take a domestication aspect of a wild dog and really, truly train them, completely betraying this aspect of evolutionary structure that the scientists erroneously have limited comprehension about. How can you take a domesticated dog? How can you take a wild dog and domesticate them? They're wild and they're feral. That's absolutely impossible. Only some people can do that. That's what you say. But then you look at people who are domesticating bears and wolves. How are they able to domesticate those structural traits of codependency and emotional process when it's a familial structure? Oh my gosh, they're able to do that with wolves. They're able to do that with bears. They're able to do that with primates. So codependency structure is going to be uniform. It's going to be somewhat mapped similarly in the brain structure through endothermic biology, right? Endothermic, warm body, whatever, instead of exothermic. So we create that structure of consciousness and able to process the abstract autonomy of behavior, of consciousness itself. If I didn't have these theories correct, I would literally be dead. If I wasn't right about those theories about dogs, those videos 3 and 4 years ago, when I was not even just interested in doing this nor relying on my level of intelligence, I'm predicting behavior, I'm down training dogs, no treats or medication back then. I've worked on my theories of consciousness and of learning, and the structures are all very simple. They all apply, they all work for everybody. I've been explaining them to my clients, my dog humans, right, dog parents, and they've been able to address it themselves with their own dogs. Yesterday I saw 2 dogs, and I'm going to be having another follow-up conversation with them. Part of what I provide is my package. And it's 2 dogs, 2 Aussies, very, very reactive, one male, one female. Female is always quite reactive. The male gets involved, etc. And through the inability for time and for who to have their dog stabilized and so forth like that. So I saw them yesterday, and literally within about 40 minutes, I was able to have them. The first one, the female, calmed down without trying to attack me. She was able to process cogently as she's structured. Instead of coming towards me, for example, she'd create curvatures of behavior to allow for herself to round out her unfamiliarity of the environment. So she will come closer to me to feel as if, okay, well, I'm going to give you a chance to hurt me, right? That kind of behavior. We're going to give enough trust, whether or not my parent is going to keep me on lead, because we had put her on lead just for a little bit. One of them tried to bite me in the face. So that what ends up happening is we see the behavior as your dog goes out, right? Even when you're walking, sometimes your dog runs into the median, into the grass, etc. when a car goes by. It's a fear behavior. As much as you go and think, well, they've never had an issue, I pointed out to these parents that their dog, one of them was extremely afraid of traffic. People go, well, why is it, well, my dog's not afraid of traffic, they just seem fine. And it's more than once that it happens where people's dogs are afraid of traffic. Again, you got to look at the scale. Your dog is this big, even Great Dane like David. We're humongous. We see mechanical structures, right? Velocity targeting of items. We can tell that the car is not going to come towards us. We can tell that through scope that it is a mechanical representation of our environment. It's contrived, but it's part of our environment. For our dogs, they don't grow up in that circumstance. Evolutionarily, there's no exposure, no process or cogency to be able to use mechanical devices. So they see cars as a foreign object. They see targeting as a vehicle comes very quickly towards them. And then we have all been in the same place where we walk down a street. We walk down a street with no sidewalk and we see a car coming quickly towards us. We get panicked and we go, okay, I'm going to go into the ditch. I was in a situation when I used to be a truck driver a few years back where I was almost killed by a semi-truck that went through my rig and through my truck over 200 feet. From the impact, and I actually jumped in the ditch and held my head as I jumped to the ditch. If you look into my older parts of my thing, I was driving an excursion with a 34-foot trailer. I was transporting high-value vehicles back then for Bentley and Bugatti and all that stuff. And my trailer hit black ice, swapped down. I was jumping into the thing, and if you see the vehicle, the complete axle on the excursion, which is a 10,000-pound vehicle, ripped right off of the vehicle. So I see trucks and I see vehicles coming towards me, it still gives me a little bit of fear of, is it going to hit me? Your dog doesn't have the ability to process it. In my head, I'm like, well, the guy's making eye contact with me, he's not going to hit me. The driver sees me. Your dog doesn't understand that, right? The ability to process vision in that two-dimensional format as well. Velocity targeting as it's coming towards, so your dog's unable to tell mass as the size gets bigger. So the velocity targeting is off without an angled approach for your dog to see. That's why coming toward the truck coming towards them, they just see the singular object coming towards them. So cogency structure, they can't process what's going on because the velocity targeting is happening, is off base because they don't have two-dimensional to three-dimensional perspective. So they can't tell how fast the vehicle is coming, and because it's coming right at them, they can't tell if the vehicle is coming at them or going to the side. Just like a little child, you walk with them on the sidewalk and they see traffic and they start pulling away thinking they're going to get hit. It's the same thing when it comes to dogs. We need to be dog woke. That's why you don't have to use treats or medication. Just connect to your dog. Instead of always going, well, when am I going to give my dog a treat so that they performed well? It's like putting a hiccup in through your cogency. Putting a hiccup in how you learn because you're like, I'm waiting. Same thing when you see people who do this and they spaghetti up their lead, right? They spaghetti up their lead. So your dog no longer has, for example, hypothetically, this is a 6-foot lead. When you do this and you rank, now you have given your dog 5.5 feet and they don't know why. Now you've given your dog 5 feet. Now you've given your dog 2 feet. Now you've given your dog 5 feet. Now you've given your dog 3 feet. Your dog is completely confused, cannot trust you to protect them on lead. It's just like a cruise control speed limit on the highway. If the speed limit is, say, 60, right? So I'm going to say 60, not going to say kilometers or miles for Canadians and Americans. So the speed limit is 60, right? You're going down 60, your passenger in the vehicle, the driver is doing 55, then 75, then 35, then 60, then 55. Eventually, you're going to say, can you just do 60 because you're driving me nuts? The speed, right? You're driving me nuts. Imagine how your dog is trying to figure out when you're showing them how incredibly nervous you are, right? So that's the thing that you want to do. There's a proper way to hold the leash as well. regardless, and I've walked with 200-pound Danes who are trying to attack people in the beginning, there's always a way to walk and always be prepared. 1% chance of your dog attacking somebody, 99% vigilance on your part. It is your obligation to be 99% vigilant. Don't muck around, don't look around like, oh, okay, my dog's okay. Vigilance, vigilance, vigilance at all times. You hold the leash like this for a number of reasons, because it's a natural anchor. You can't get off your thumb, right? Because you can basically move your hand, and if you have to, you just pinch it. When you pinch it, that structurally goes through body mechanics to the top of your arm, shoulder, just like primates as we fall through the jungle. This is a cogency that you need to understand when you're working with dogs. The level of dogs that I work with, if I fuck up, I'm dead. It's not an embellishment. Google BC Dog Whisperer, you see that one with Tonka, the one that Dr. Rebecca Ledger turned down because she was afraid he was going to kill her. I work with them alone. No medication or treats. I use retractables. You watch my videos. Sorry about that, my alarm. I have alarms that go off every day for some of my beloved dogs that have passed away, the time that they passed away. So I'm very grounded in where I am and who I am. And I'll go on further as things progress. Retractables, you see my videos. I'm walking with 2 dogs on retractables at the same time. Let me go get the other one for you. Hello, David. Hi, silly boy. You're okay. You're okay. Hi, Sammy. No, we're not going outside. Stop, please. Hi, Mickey. Hello, Mickey. You're okay. So I work with 2 retractables with my dogs, like with David. So David's 200 pounds, and then sometimes it's Lincoln, and sometimes it is William, and one's 105 pounds. He's smaller Dane's about 30 inches at the withers. He's got some hip dysplasia issues. So I walk with the 2 leashes like that, watch the videos, and that's it. All I'm doing is with one part here, I'm using that with my thumb. That's it. I'm using with my thumb, I'm using the other one as well. So that way you have the articulation, it allows the dogs to have flexibility to run all over the place. And I'll show that to you guys in the future on my next walkthrough. You can watch the ones before where I calm David down when he sees a dog he wants to attack. He hasn't seen that dog for over a month, and we don't know where he's been. We haven't been out in that area in the neighborhood, and then the dog comes out barking at him, and David wants to go after him. And I'm holding the retractable, etc. The retractable is really good. It is far superior than a lead line can ever be. 20-foot lead line when you're working with your dog, search and rescue, whatever kind of part. Because when you see people pulling the lead line on their dog, they're pulling the lead line and they're afraid of getting rope burn. You can see in their eyes that they're afraid of getting rope burn. And I've had trolls come on my page who do that. I'm like, okay, I'll go to your page and I'll destroy you. So the situation is, you want to, David, watch your big head. Go back, please. So basically what happens with the lead line is if I need to let go of it, I don't have to curl it back up. That's it. So of course it's going to be attached to your dog, and it needs a lot of experience and work with it. If you watch the videos, it looks like it's easy, but it's very much difficult. The sound that you heard Dave making just now, that huffing sound, you've heard that when your dog, especially those of you that have dysfunctional dogs, you hear them completely fake. Psychosomatic behavior, because your dog has learned how to range through the behaviors that causes you to be concerned and upset. That's how predaceous aspects of survival occur in a really quite emotionally cogent kind of animal, right? So you want to be able to comprehend that. Those hacking sounds are fake. And when it's pointed out to people, they'll realize that they see their dog where the collar's not even being pulled on them, they're not even being pulled on a leash, and they start hacking. It's psychosomatic behavior. That is all indicative of how your dog is processing their environment on a predaceous nature as they're trying to essentially go, well, what is a threat and what isn't? Predaceous nature. That's why, once again, when we have our dogs able to feel that they're safe, even in my hand position here, right, you see how big David is, he yawns because he's not used to this kind of interaction while I'm still working. Hi, silly boy. He walks by to see whether or not, as you see how he comes back again on his own. Watch this. I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to continue talking, and you'll see him coming back just because he wants to double check. Here he goes right here. That's behavior. Here you go, silly boy. So then I make acknowledge for him, nonverbal fluency. Yeah, I see you coming here back and forth. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, and if it's generally whatever, it doesn't matter how complicated it is, I can answer that online for once in a while for people. You want to understand the structure of what's happening with behavior. All the stuff that you're hearing and reading, I can destroy it all, I can shred it all, and I can prove it in person. It doesn't make me an arrogant person. It makes me very frustrated and very upset. So you see that I kind of ranted off the other day for a number of days, because what I've done is, and I've written down there on my Facebook post, this is where it all starts. So I'm working on a project on something. I'm hoping that it comes to fruition, and if it comes to fruition, it's going to be rather significant in what my work is, and trying to get away from all the people that tried scamming me and stealing my IP. I can't say much more right now, but hopefully in this coming May, there will be some rather substantial information, and it's going to really change everything. And I'm going to be using, that's why I said that before, I'm going to be using all this predacious behavior that I myself had learned about dogs and humans and behavior, and destructuring idealectic, how people write. Physical idealectic, of course, the psychological idealectic when it comes to people's writing. All that stuff I've used, and I'm going to be working that to basically promote my work on my own instead now, and to see where else it can go on that part. It can be quite substantial. Obviously, those of you again who know, my brothers are over 160 IQ, so I'm supposed to be somewhat smarter than them, as well as I've had opportunities to have my own TV show and stuff like that. Go to Manhattan, blah blah blah. It's been no motivation because there's no congruency what's going on. People have to understand that the relationship with dogs is profound. The level of codependency is profound. It's egocentric. We look at the structure of how a dog is processing themselves. That's what's clear. It's not about the money. It's about the clarity of what's going on with how the dogs are behaving. The industry is over $70 billion in 2019 for the pet industry. Over $13.4 billion is spent on pet care. $13.4 billion. That includes training. That includes the people who drive around in their high-end vehicles who charge $750 an hour. My sessions are literally $230 plus GST. That's Canadian, US video sessions that I provide to different rescue organizations, as well obviously the people. I provide 1 to 2 hours of pre-session discussion, consult. 1 to 2 hours. Talk with the family. Let's figure out what's going on with your dog so that I'm not wasting your dog's time, your time during the session. During the session, it's 2 hours. I spend 2 hours with your dog. If you can see what I can do in these videos, imagine what I can do with your dog in person or on video. Absolutely destructured to the psychological behavior, and that's why I don't really share my posts, because I'm like, well, I'm not doing that, but I guess I have to. So you can see the behaviors and all the structures that are happening with your dog, like I did with Axel and Gordon, the disabled dog, and all these other dogs. You see that structure happening extremely quickly in real time. I'll video your session and put it up on YouTube in a private link, and you watch it whenever you want. I provide an additional 1 to 2 hours follow-up after the session. So that's $230. I know Dr. Rebecca Ledger and Dr. Claudia Richter, they charge $750 for 60 minutes, and they can't touch the dogs I deal with. They medicate their dogs. I tell you how you don't have to do medication anymore. Like with David, he's off medication. He's weaned before he gets here. I don't care how predacious he is. I don't care how dangerous he is. And he has tried to attack me. He's gotten me in a corner a few times. But I know what I'm doing. Not trying to be last famous words, but I know what I'm doing. I wouldn't risk my life to work alone with these dogs without treats or medication or shields. Nothing at all. I'm working as it happens. I'm dealing with Minky, who still wants to bite me every once in a while when he's unfamiliar with emotional circumstances. All the stuff that I'm teaching is literally free. Literally free. It's just using common sense. And I'm going to explain it to you guys as you continue watching my vlogs. I'm going to explain it to you in just more technical, complicated aspects of behavior down into a more simplified human analogy type explanation so that people can understand that as well. So that, for example, codependency is a very important structure. So we look at that point on the technical part of, supposition of 27,000 years ago, when the scientists are saying that's when there's cohabitation of going with dogs, because the dogs then found food and became friendly, and they then became reliant on the human beings for the food and the garbage, right? You see how arrogant that statement is? We as human beings have made an animal be our beloveds. Right? We force them. No, that's a really arrogant, immature statement to say that by leaving the garbage out that our dogs became domesticated. It's ridiculous. Have you ever befriended somebody or befriended an animal? And you're like, oh my gosh, I really like this feeling that we're hanging out and this dog's not trying to attack me. You have a nice relationship. What does that happen? It creates codependency. Codependency is an emotive template that your dog has the capacity to generate, right? Fantastically generate, construct that feeling of warmth and happiness, exothermic behavior, right? That warmth, be able to do that and to be able to process the emotion of going, well, you know, I would normally kill you, but I feel warm, right? I feel a feeling that I'm not comfortable with. The vlog I talked about yesterday is about Mickey's behavior when he comes to dealing with emotions and feelings that he's not used to. That's why dogs bite some people, including their humans, because of the unfamiliarity with the body during heightened types of circumstantial emotive environments, the templates. Your dog's not used to it. So we have that part where, whoa, how did the dog get domesticated? Well, it certainly didn't happen from giving them food. It certainly didn't happen from something as arrogantly silly as that. It happened from the fact that the cave person at that time, at that age of evolutionary development, also found a codependency behavior, was able to maintain a congruency of sorts from the wild human to the wild dog. The domestication happened out of emotional isomorphism, right? Two different biological structures sharing somewhat similarities in regards to evolutionary growth because of just by situational positioning, right? That's it. So that's a technical part that I'm saying about. So then the emotional isomorphism creates an influential aspect through a emotional relationship, that codependency, it exists there. But then at the same time, as I said earlier, we can take a dog, put them in the wild, they live on their own, all the traits are gone. We can take a wild dog, bring them home, domesticate them, one dog immediately within days, weeks, and sometimes months for some people, right? So that means that that emotional structure, the codependency, already existed without our help. That's why the scientists are arrogant. Temple Grandin is absolutely incorrect. The codependency didn't happen because of us. The codependency happened because the existing conscious level of structure pre-existed in the biological endothermic of the dog. Right? Does that make sense? Maybe you guys can say, yeah, maybe it doesn't. I'm processing extremely quickly because I have to. And I have to understand what's happening at the slivers of behavior at 1/2 of 1/10 of a second. Watch the Gordon Disabled Bulldog video. You'll see where I'm doing something to a dog that's completely disabled and able to have him in my arms in 1 hour and 10 minutes without medication. I'm predicting his behavior, identifying neurological issues, tongue behavior, all those things that are psychosomatic or physiologically dysfunctional or the physical discoordination that's happening. So the cross-species domestication didn't happen because of us humans. So the scientists, again, are all wrong. It happened because the existing conscious structure, as latent or primal or as diluted as I say, it's still there. And what do you do with a dog? So I say it's dilutable in that point of 1 can of frozen orange juice to 20 cans of water for our dogs. For us, we are the frozen can of orange juice with exactly 3 cans of water, perfectly sweet. No parents have watered it down. No brother or sister has put sugar in it or salt in it. It's all perfect like that, right? We see 100 out of 100 at our level of evolutional structure. If we went back 400 years to the 1700s, our evolutional structure of consciousness cogency wouldn't be at 100. It would be around 83, 87% of where we are now because we scaled our comprehension. You won't see this academia ever presented in universities because they don't recognize or comprehend consciousness. So we look at the dog's behavior, how they're processing relative to us. We see a domestication of a dog that's extremely dangerous, feral. For most of mountain dogs are very common for that because they are living on an island. They've become their own breed just by the aspect of default of being the only species surviving after 600 years of being left there with other dogs. So they became a homogenized breed of their own, right? And that's kind of like nature abhors a vacuum. So what happens is we can take a domesticated dog, make them feel safe, make them feel, a wild dog, make them feel safe in the home. Then the dog becomes relaxed, right? The dog is no longer trying to attack people. The dog is no longer hiding in the corner like Minky and trying to get away. The dog is not doing anything to protect themselves because now they feel safe. What does that do? That's called the quantification and scale and tracking of sentient behavior. Everything that Templeton University attempts to find in their audaciously silly attempt to destructure consciousness by having their $1 million contest and all stuff. There we go, just share it. We just tracked consciousness. However, that dog was really dangerous here. We can track this is what would happen when we touch the dog this way or we came to the dog this way, and a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, I can walk by this feral dog and he doesn't try to attack me anymore. What you just did is you quantified sentience. You quantified consciousness. You literally, yourself, you didn't need your PhD degrees that they have. You were able to go, here's a quantification of behavior. Here's what I did to down train and stabilize my dog to get them to this point to be able to be like this now. You took that gap there, you filled it in by quantifying behavior, you filled it in by watching the behavior to get them to calm down. You literally track consciousness. There's no difference in what I do with the dogs. I track their behaviors, and I input massive amounts of data happening at once, because I have 5 to 7 dogs, and the ability for them to attack and kill each other is present. One of my dogs was almost killed a couple of years ago with over 120 stitches. So all these things happen, right? We've got to be able to pay attention to what's going on. 1% chance, you've got to be 99% vigilant. Everything can be stabilized. Everything when it comes to dysfunctional behavior can be stabilized. It's not reactivity. When you hear someone tell you that's a reactivity of your dog, that your dog is reactive, then you know you're dealing with someone who's low level comprehension, low intelligence. Because when they say your dog is reactive and they're professional, they're basically saying to you, here's a generalization, let's figure it out. You read all my stories and all my stuff about the dog, I'm specific. I core down to exactly what it is, and I'm 100% accurate. So that's why I only charge $230 for 1 to 2 hours before, 2 hours of the session, 1 to 2 hours afterwards. I also provide essentially lifetime support for people's dogs. They can text or email me, and I'll give them a hand. If they need a phone call, I'll phone and talk to them for an hour for free. My commitment is about the dogs. It's not about money. It's not about the Gucci high heels and all that garbage. It's about your dog, 100%. That's why I know dogs with my life. That's why I can prove you don't need treats or medication. You connect with your dog, let them feel safe. When they're off wandering around and scared, you bring them back into you so that they feel safe. Watch the videos with David. You're going to see amazing things with a 200-pound dog that has 16 bites on him and is trying not to attack Minky simply because he's trusting me to give him a hug. And that hug is a reset hug, but it also provides me a respiratory and physiological feedback loop of how his body is feeling. Even on a small dog like a Chihuahua, same thing. You can still feel the breathing pattern. You can feel them taking deeper breaths. You can feel them holding their breath. You can feel them shallowing their breath. You can feel them turning the body. Even if your eyes closed, you can feel the body moving. So it's not just the fact that you're giving a dog a hug. That's why I say those alpha people don't know what they're talking about. They're like, oh, you're just making the dog that you're encouraging thing. No, you're actually being able to, one, establish safety, because your dog is not going to try to attack someone if they feel safe. So we eliminate that third step of why get angry when I'm just going to make you feel safe anyways. I talk to people about Runaway Bunny, that story. Read that little child's cartoon comic book, Runaway Bunny. It tells exactly what your dog is looking for. It's that simple. There's no complication. I'm not trying to overshow you. I'm not selling you any courses. I'm not doing any garbage like that at all. I don't need to. I'm happy if people can understand what's going on with their dogs. We want the behaviors for them to feel that they're safe. When we give the dog a hug, we're also giving not just our own ability to gauge physiologically what they're doing, the breathing pattern, they're breathing, you can feel them move a bit, trying to discomfort themselves, all these things to find themselves in their body presence, right? Because the dog is then becoming clamped up, like I talked about Minky's last night live vlog about the cement aspect of emotional structure and how to get him out of that, which is atypical to any other dog's typical type of dysfunctions or aggression or dangerous behavior. The bite level 6 scale, absolutely a joke. Bite level 6 scale is, to me, is an exemplification of a limitation of the individual by declaring this is how far I can go with a dangerous dog that tries to kill somebody. I can't go any further, so I put bite level 6 as silly Dr. Ian Dunbar prescribes. These dogs are beyond this because of the emotional envelope, not the behavior. That's why I asked in the beginning of this thing, it says when the dog bites, is it 1 bite, 2 bites, 3 bites, 4 bites? How is the succession? It's never 5 bites. If it's 5 bites, it's always broken up into 2 separate bites. It's a cogency structure on how the dog is dysfunctionally performing and processing their environment, consequential to their circumstances, never reactive. If there's no exposure to your dog doesn't react. Never reacts, right? Hang out, nothing happens. But if someone comes in and causes an issue, your dog will behave consequentially to the environment because it has shifted. Your dog has not become reactive. If your dog is reactive, that's a 2-dimensional perspective. It shows a limitation of the trainer's comprehension of what's going on. It shows that they have a higher preponderance and reliance on Skinner in the 4 quadrants of silliness. All those kinds of things that are rather immature when it comes to behavior. Because then they become core down, they start becoming the one trainer that goes, well, I deal with pit bulls. I'm a pit bull specialist. Dude, there's no such thing as a pit bull specialist. Anyone who tells you that they're a breed-specific specialist, Aussies, whatever, I work with them all. I work with the extreme cases. And it didn't matter what kind of dog they are. That's why if you say I'm a pit bull specialist, you're then basically saying that, yeah, pit bulls are dangerous. That's what the trainer is saying. I have to be a specialist in this pit bulls because there's so many dangerous ones. In other words, you don't know what you're doing. What you need to do is say, I work with all dogs. Because the thing is, it's like me saying I have a driving school, but I'm only going to teach Chinese people how to drive cars. There you go. That's a ridiculous statement, right? A little bit of humor, facetiousness, but it is really, right? Maybe I'm being sardonic, but the reality is, it's like that. Well, the car is the same. Human analogy. If you really look at the aspect, human analogy, the car is the same. It drives the same, right? I used to deliver transport for high-value people, very expensive vehicles. Bugatti Veyron Super Sport Sang Noir valued at $3.8 million. I was asked by Bugatti to move it for them. All these people, all these behaviors are very there's no such thing as a right. The Bugatti drives the same, even though it's a really nice car. They actually, I'm going to just say that when they had the guys from Bugatti come in Montreal to pick up the Bugatti from me in front of the Ritz-Carlton, the guy took off his shoes and he had gloves on, like literally what you see on TV. It's under one of my links under Jet Say Transport, and you see that I'm not prevaricating, I'm not lying. But the car drives the same. The behavior is the same. They talk about human beings having, someone said to me one time, that it's 8 psychological templates, but it's all uniform throughout all the species, the whole cell aspect of human species. Our dog is going to be the same. There's no such thing as breed-specific dog trainer. Impossible. That means a narrowness of comprehension. That means a limitation of comprehension. That means low-level intelligence. You don't want a trainer who talks like that. I have no problem calling people out. As you all know, I'm going to try to be nice. I'm going to try to pretend that I'm trying to help the community, I guess, in that sense. But the reality is the information you're getting is incorrect. How can a guy like me with no education, etc., regardless of where I scale on the IQ aspect, but how can a guy like me be able to destructure behavior accurately, consistently, 100% of the time, and say, if you don't believe me, bring me a dangerous dog and I'll do it in front of you? It's been a standing statement. It's not to be an arrogant or a hubris type of person. It's to show you that the fact is, the reality is that the dog training academia and behaviorism is completely wrong. It's immature. They're killing 6 million dogs a year for simple behavioral issues. You go 6 million dogs, that sounds like a lot. There are over 100 million domesticated dogs living in North America. 6% kill rate is not that high, is it? Unfortunately. So the simple behavioral issues, and that also means that dogs are being turned over sooner in families because they're like, okay, well, let's just dispose of this dog and get a puppy again. We know that kind of situation happens. That's that cognitive dissonance of not being able to have interdependent responsibility, the emotive structure when they're connecting with their dog that they just killed. That kind of dissonance happens in that part, right? It's not a materialistic or aesthetic aspect. It's the inability to process a higher complexity of emotions. So then the disassociation goes, I'm going to get rid of this dog so I can get a new one so that I can transfer it out there without feeling that I've lost anything. Maintaining the control and the fragility of life and its progress. So when it comes to the aspect of driving the vehicle, it comes to the aspect of dogs, it's the same. Really. I take Great Danes in. Do you think I would want to take a Great Dane in knowing that the history is quite dangerous? But I am. It doesn't matter. I take Minky. Minky's a Jindo. I don't take dogs that small. I take dogs that are at least 150 pounds. But I did so because the Animal Hope and Wellness Foundation promised to promote my work, and they failed on that too. These people use people who are trying to be nice, unfortunately, but at the same time, I still have the opportunity to help Minky, to show the world how straightforward and easy it is to destructure behavior, even on a dog that's grown up in a meat dog farm, seeing other dogs tortured to death and killed. We work with that structure. So I talked about him yesterday in the tunnel aspect of the cement level of emotions, that we know people are like that as well. Humans are like that. We have to make dogs feel safe. There's absolutely no way. No other ways, right? So what is that codependency structure? The nonverbal structure that happens in a bit more of a technical explanation. So the behavior is always going to be the same because that endothermic structure is going to be there from the biology, right? From the abstract, absolute construct of consciousness, right? There's going to be the compartmentalization that's able to be fired up. So your dog is able to process emotional structures. Complex emotions like jealousy, your dog is able to process. We've seen it happen. your dog is able to process complex emotions, jealousy, which means they can also process less complex emotions, because jealousy comes with insecurity, abandonment, competition, self-esteem, right? All these things that human beings feel, your dog is expressing it. Cogency means that your dog is actually processing. They're not reactive. They behave consequentially. When we speak in the way that I'm speaking, if I ask you guys to do that, it'd be great, because then you start looking at your dog with more respect. When you start using regular language with your dog instead of it, he, she, or whatever, you start using their name more often, then you find an emotional enfranchisement. Then you find an emotional reason to be part of your dog's life, because now you start interacting with them differently. Because again, like I said, 98% nonverbal. So that interaction that you have with your dog is pretty profound. And when they're listening to your words, you have to use the limitation of words so they have the context without being overwhelmed. It's like going to a foreign country, trying to find directions to get somewhere, and then the person just goes off all over. It's like, da, 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 da. You're like, left to right, please. Right? That level of structure has to happen. That's why I say when it comes to the dilutable perspective of scale of sentience and quantifying all of that and tracking it all, it's all there. You just have to slow down and see that and start writing it down. Take videos of your dog's behavior and you compare it. That's quantification. And you can see when you compare videos what their behavior was like beforehand and after. And you go, okay, well, he did this before he did that. Then you start tracking, called accident deconstruction, right? Accident being the attack, deconstruction of what actually happened. That's what they do at accident scenes. That's what you do when your friend has a bad day with their boyfriend, and you go, okay, what's wrong? You talk to her, okay, what happened? Let's figure it out. Right? We do accident deconstruction. We're just really quite impatient human beings, extremely impatient human beings. We expect dogs to behave and adjust immediately, despite the fact that we can't do it ourselves. Have you ever been in a relationship and you ask someone to change and they don't change? Right? They can't do it. Someone who has been through PTSD, some psychological trauma, they can't change. It takes counseling months and years sometimes for them to change. We expect dogs to change on a dime because of our arrogance, because we're inept. We are inept at understanding their behavior because we're talking too much to them. Anybody that works with me, I'm quite verbose. I talk quite a bit. I destructure behavior pretty fast, and it kind of throws people off. But when I'm working with my dog, I stay silent. I use only the efficiency of the words. Then the dogs hear the words. That's why Anthony had learned the objectification of the phrase can of tuna. And he could have cogent primate comprehension when he looked at the can of tuna within that 60-second frame of my TikTok. The behavior is consciousness. That's what you have to realize. And don't listen to the silly people telling you no alpha and all this other kind of stuff. None of that work. All that stuff was tried on all these dogs. None of that stuff worked with any of these dogs. And you were to try that with any of these dogs, which is why those people all declined, these dogs would kill the person within 40 minutes. It's not an embellishment. The historical aspect is there. So then how is it that I'm able to work with them? Is by giving them the codependency. It's just the same way you do when you build trust up with a friend. Another human analogy, how do you trust somebody? How do you get your dog to trust you, right? This is all rehash of everything I say, because it's Sunday. You lend a friend of yours $20. 20 bucks, just 20 bucks, right? You lend him 20 bucks, a week later goes by, hasn't paid you back. All right, whatever, okay. 2 weeks later, hasn't paid you back. 20 bucks he still owes you. 3 weeks later, he's got his pay period already, he's got paid already. And you're like, hey, right, you're not saying anything, he hasn't paid you 20 bucks. And you're like, well, yeah, maybe it's just 20 bucks, okay, wow, but still. And then you see him 2 months later down skiing, like in Whistler, Colorado, right, on the right? You're like, and you phone him up, and you're like, hey man, how's that trip? I see you on now, so it must have been a lot of fun there, or skiing and all that. And then what's going to end up happening is your friend's going to come back to you in a week when he gets back, and he's going to pay you the $20 back, probably sheepishly. You'd be kind of a little embarrassed, like, oh, here's the 20 bucks I owed you. So then the question is, it's a trust issue. When's the next time you're going to lend your friend 20 bucks again? Never. When's the next time your dog can trust you? That's the difference. If your dog is relying on you when they're scared of another dog, they're coming to you for help. They don't come to you to guard you. See, if you get that out of your head that your dog is not guarding you, but in fact your dog is afraid and wants you to protect them, then you go, that's why he comes to me now. Because if your dog was trying to protect you, if your dog was trying to possess you, if your dog was trying to protect you, he sure as heck wouldn't be coming here to protect me from the threat over there. he'd be over at the threat trying to attack that threat. So that's why you don't have a comprehension of why your dog's behavior, if you're thinking your dog is trying to protect you. It's two-dimensional. It's two-dimensional. Dog's trying to protect me because I'm property, right? It doesn't make sense. But if you look at the point of my dog who sees me and I take care of him 24/7 of the day, and now he's really scared and he comes to me. Why is he coming to me? Well, he's not protecting me because it's not a reciprocal type of codependency relationship, because that structure of complexity does not exist in your dog's ability to process unless it's a core aspect of emotional narrowness of behavior. So he's here beside you. Why is he here beside you? He wants you to protect him. Why does he lean up against you? Do you think anyone who's going to beat somebody up is going to lean up against you before they go beat up that person? Do you ever see a bully go, hey, you know what, let me hang out with you for a little bit before I go and, right? What does a bully do when they want to attack somebody? They hide behind their friends because they're afraid. What does your dog do? Come to you for protection. Don't listen to silly people out there. Be no way I could downtrain any of these dogs without medication or treats if they did not know that I was going to protect them and that I would risk my life to protect them against a car, against a stroller, against a skateboard, against a car that is speeding down, boom, boom, boom. I'm protecting my dog from the dangerous car, from the dangerous stroller, from the dangerous skateboarder. That's why we have to look at scale. We cannot look at dogs as dumb and stupid. If we do so, we bastardize our own humanity. Why does your dog come to you? Right? Because they're afraid of the skateboard. They're afraid that it's going to come at them. Maybe when they were a small pup or something recently happened where some kids did try to terrorize them, or that he's just walking, your dog's walking, got scared by a skateboard that came out of the blue, and you did nothing to show him that you acknowledged it. We'll talk about that later on that structure of consciousness of learning. The whole structure is there from the behavior point. I wouldn't be, alive otherwise. So I hope this has helped. If you have any questions, you want to ask about your dog, email me at james@arfarfbarkbark.com. You can go on my website, arfarfbarkbark.com, under the tab Free Help for Your Dogs. You can see where I'm actually reading people's dogs and photos and giving them an 80 to 100% accuracy reading back on their dogs, which is what people say is impossible, blah, blah, blah. These are silly people. They have low-level comprehension. Don't listen to those traders. Don't. You could destroy your ability to cogently build a much more intelligent, emotionally cogent dog, emotionally intelligent dog. A dog that can calm themselves down is a highly intelligent dog. A dog that can be in an environment where they would normally attack another dog over food or another human being and is able to calm themselves down, that's a highly intelligent dog, especially a dog that has a profound history. The cogency comprehension of going on with dogs is too limited. You're listening to people tell you your dog is two-dimensional, that your dog is reactive, that your dog is insecure, that your dog is scared. What are the definitions of why? What exactly is the reason why they're scared? It's the same thing I talked about here. It's just real simple. Well, why would our dog come to us? Same thing when we go to the bathroom, right? We'll answer that question. Same thing when you masturbate. What is your dog thinking? All these structures are based on the cogency of what your dog interprets versus what they do themselves. If I understand the way the dog is behaving, then I start to understand how the dog is seeing through the field of vision processing. As I understand that, then I start to understand how dogs process pain, because my guess, my intuition has been right, so I might as well keep pushing it. And if I am wrong, then I step back and make an adjustment on my behavior, hope I don't get attacked, and I go back in and apply the same aspect, pretending I'm not scared. Then I learn again and again and again. I become more and more accurate. And I hone my skills, no different than you honing your skills with if you're a salesperson, right? You start watching your client. You start watching over little physical behaviors that indicate that they're interested or not interested. You read off of them through their nonverbal fluency. We are predators. Absolutely don't let anyone ever deny that about you. If you want to be successful, in what you do, embrace the predator, the innate predator that you have inside of you. You will see in the next few months, things will be becoming different, and I will be applying my predator aspect in my personal and business type life. It's here. It's there. Read back what I said. I rant off on a couple of the behaviors and all stuff because they are killing dogs out of arrogance. End of the day, you watch all this stuff that's going on, all the behaviors. The dogs are all calm. People walking by, cars are driving by. All those things are happening. It's going to be a really simple aspect when you see truly those cogency structures in your dog where they're actually thinking. And instead of going, well, I don't understand my dog, you're now able to scale, right? Record their behavior and calm them down. Even if it's a little bit, when you watch the tape back from then to now, it's a huge difference. And people go, oh, I never realized how much of a difference. Because we're in the mix, right? We're stuck in that and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get out. And you feel really not just inept, you feel desperate and despondent. And you start asking the wrong people for advice for training. There's some, actually I'm gonna go read off something that I read in, I don't want to say which group it is, otherwise they're going to find out and then kick me out, because I get kicked out of all these groups, especially when I say things like, well, what about psychology, the root structure of the dog's behavior? And it just blows their mind. They all get pissed off and I get kicked out. Nobody ever answers me, but they always kick me out. So it's the inability for them to comprehend past the 4 quadrants and the bridging and the plus, and all these other silly things that really don't mean anything. Right? You talk about someone, oh, I need somebody with a diploma and everything like that. The diploma isn't going to help the person when they're dealing with the dog. No diploma has ever helped anyone when they're in a debate situation. Oh, look at me, So there's 3 of them here. So I'm going to read off one off of this group. Okay, here's something silly. Okay, so this person says, I don't know another group that will really understand the emotions I went through the other day. My dog was the only, in her capital letters, dog that didn't have a prong collar on out in a group a little while ago. So right off the bat, prong collar, right? Dogs don't need it. It's a brute force device. It's a lackadaisical approach of really doing the simple work. And the professional that tells you to use a prong collar is inept, because they don't know how to work with their own dog again, right? The breed specific thing again, they don't know what to do. So they start finding excuses to represent what they don't know what to do. So they use a prong collar because they don't know how to use a regular collar and leash with a dangerous dog or etc. So that's a prong aspect. My dog was the only dog that didn't have a prong collar out in the group a little while ago. I don't know them well enough to get into a mob argument with all of them regarding the side effects, so right or wrong, I didn't say anything. But I saw a very anxious dog, a couple good but very high drive dogs, a young adolescent GSD, German Shepherd, who was just excited and didn't know any better to get a prong collar for the first time with an inexperienced handler. Even this person here who I was going to rip into, I thought, okay, she's going to talk about this prong collar thing, turns out to be someone who realizes a prong collar is a pretty brutal device. Using it on a puppy, all those kinds of things. Right? People go, oh, well, it doesn't hurt the dog. Completely lie. If you ever had someone go, oh, I've tried it on, I've ran that and it doesn't hurt me, they're lying. They are lying. And if you ever see the way people rank on those prong collars, it's not anywhere as light and polite as the running against it. Oh, it hurts me. I put one on. It frickin' hurts. Putting it on just on my skin hurts. I can imagine what happens when it pulls. And if you try to use force to oppress somebody to get them to comply, they will never be fully and emotionally invested in you, will they? The cogency is no longer there because they're going to hold back. The dog is going to hold back. Well, when's the next time I'm going to get hurt? How does a dog process pain through a redundant and rhetorical format, right? It's emotional, it's codependent, it's egocentric, it's guided, just like learning death, the technicality on that part. She goes on, I was using a harness and a flat collar. I was really proud of my reactive dog for being able to work around the distractions and also being down so they make the dog squat down and lay down, which shuts the dog down. If you make your dog sit or squat down or lay down in a dysfunctional environment, you're shutting your dog down. Your dog cannot process because you're making and forcing them to shut down. And you'll see why some dogs will sit down automatically when they can't handle things, but they're still reactive because they can't handle the environment. You'll never see 2 dogs about to attack each other, rah, 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 and one sitting down. Never happens. Accident responders, 911 responders showing up at an accident scene, they tell all the victims in the accident, go sit down. They don't have chairs or desks, stools at the computers in the fire hall. You can't lose control. When your dog sits down, you force them to lose control. You physically compromise their ability to protect themselves by upwards of 0.7 of a second to physically defend themselves. They see an animal coming towards them that they're afraid of, or a car or whatever coming towards them, they're not going to be able to defend themselves because they know they have to get up. So then they go, I'm relying on you. And then the human being just screws up the whole thing by going, I'm really nervous or whatever. And your dog's like, it just gets worse. And then the dysfunctions become exasperated, right? Become exacerbated. They become more and more and more pronounced. So that the ones that you used to see become less and less visible because they're now being covered up by the iceberg of greater dysfunctions. And when you deal with somebody who talks about your dog, like, you know, reaction, and dog's reactive and insecure or whatever, and fear, well, then ask them, what exactly is the fear about? What could have caused them to have this fear? I've sent you an explanation in detail in writing so you can read my idealectic and tell me what's wrong with my dog. All right, so you've got my email. I described my dog. You said my dog is fearful. So then ask your trainer, so what kind of fear does my dog have? Ask them for the psychological profile, not like, oh, well, your dog's afraid of other dogs. Okay, well, why is he afraid of other dogs? And what does it, what are the physical traits does it have to show me, right, that my dog has to show me the physical behaviors, what little things that are happening that are showing you that my dog is fearful. Where is that coming from, right? Because you see in the videos, I talk about gait structure, physical standing, how the dog is physically standing, how they move their paws and everything, whether there's a cogency that is influential that causes the dog to have some sort of nervousness or tremors or shudders and all that stuff, because it's a cogency behavior, how they sometimes trip because they're concentrating on a cogent level versus a autonomous physical level of behavior that we all do, you know, like doing things instinctually, that kind of stuff. You'll want to find out from the trainer their proficiency level. Trainer who doesn't ask you those things, that's charging you over $120, $130, too much. You don't want to treat train your dog, never treat train your dog. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you. Nobody is going to justify violating evolution. Right? The canine species fights to the death over food. Giving your angry, dysfunctional dog food elicits and enables predator instinct. Doesn't matter if you're a PhD, Temple Grandin, Templeton University, anybody. You cannot deny that fact that dogs fight to the death over food. So why are these scientists and all these people giving dogs food? Same thing with medication. You can't medicate a dog. David was medicated, 750 milligrams of Prozac, 80 milligrams of Prozac, 750 milligrams of trazodone for 2 years. Serotonin syndrome, its side effects include aggression. They don't think. They're medicating a dog severely as well, or medicating any dog, because they're saying the dog has psychological issues. Well, then the professional vet or trainer should say, well, what are the psychological issues? Why am I putting my dog on some extremely difficult psychopharmaceuticals without comprehension of what his issues are? And if he has these issues of fear, well, why, instead of giving them medication, what is it that I can do to help my dog psychologically at the root structure? Because here's the thing is, your dog can be as dangerous or whatever they want. They can be trying to kill people. They can have killed somebody as well. But the reality is, your dog is a born predator. So by blaming the dog, by putting them on medication and killing them in behavioral euthanasia, again, speaks to the ineptitude of the professional. Not one dog have I ever had to kill. Not one dog have I ever said that has to die. I've accepted every single dog, no matter how dangerous and how giant, 200 pounds, whatever. So when you hear somebody say behavioral euthanasia and all that stuff, say, no, do your freaking job. Because here's the thing, when you hire a professional, PhD, they do an evaluation report on your dog. That's legal tender against your dog for the rest of their life. If you don't follow their instructions, you don't phone them out, hey, I need your help, then they have the legal thing that says in the thing, well, I give them advice to do this and that. So you have a legal record. And when you tell the animal control, hey, this is the trainer or the behaviors that I went through, the behaviors go, okay, yeah. And then if it's a court aspect of right, you go to court, they're going to subpoena the information and your dog is dead in the water because you didn't listen to their incorrect advice. That's the difficulty. You're dealing with people who don't know what they're talking about and they're killing dogs, no problem at all. Dr. Claudia Richter said to a couple of clients that hired me, you should think about killing your dog. Literally said that to them on the phone. How can someone say that? Like, really, if you paid me, I'm only charging $230. I can blow these people out of the way, and I'm giving people 5 hours because I feel it's right, and also because it's so simple for me. But how can these people go out there and say to you, looking at you, even on the phone, right? Because they're gutless, they won't say it to you in your face. They never say it to you in your face, but they say you should kill your dog. But isn't the professional that you just paid $750 able to help your dog? A schlep like James here charges $230 and can do it in one session. You should be able to do it in $750 in 60 minutes. But instead, these people recommend death for your dog because they don't know what to do. That's the truth. If you know what you're doing, you don't have to say those things, right? You say, well, this is the problem with your dog. This is how you address it. But if you don't know what to do, and you're scared and inept, then you go, your dog is dangerous. I'm going to have to tell you to kill your dog. All these dogs have had that same designation. All these dogs have been turned down. And I say every single time, it's very simple. I see the photos. They've attacked people. They've created vicious wounds. Send them to me. I know the risk. Absolutely. But send them to me. Because I'm addressing the issue at the dog speed of processing at less than 1/10 of a second. I'm addressing the physical behaviors, conscious behaviors. I'm scaling behaviors. I'm tracking that, inputting that in real time. So that way when the adjustments happen for our dogs, right, for them in the group here and the dangerous dog is around there, I'm making adjustments so that the dangerous dog knows I'm operating at the same speed that everyone else is as a biology, right, as a life. So then my dog then sees the representation. Wow, this human being, or should I say the big guy there, he's looking at me here. Instead, then I'm showing them that I'm processing what's going on very quickly, that I'm actively engaged. I'm 99% vigilant in a 100% dangerous situation. I have to be. Always maintain that same level. So then I start to see what's going on. I start to see the behavior, and I start talking to them, changing tone. I use their voice key. If you watch the video of Minky, the Animal Hope and Wellness Foundation dog, the third video, you see where I determine his voice key within the first minute of him in the wheel well of my vehicle. And that's the same tone I've used for the rest of his life now. So all these parts that we can determine through the sentient aspects of behavior, we can see what's going on. We can start learning. You guys can start learning that you don't need medication anymore, that you don't need treats or anything, because your dog's brain is naturally superior as it is. The reality is your dog is a predator. So the medication and all this other garbage, the prong collars and all that stuff, it literally says, I don't know what to do about your dog. That's the travesty that happens. That's why dogs, 6 million are being killed annually. So we're going to change these things, hopefully. If you guys have enjoyed my vlog, please share it. Please follow. Please help promote this work because it is much different. And I am going to work towards a much nicer and friendlier type of presentation where people can understand what I'm talking about. I'm not too technical, but I'm going to bring in technical stuff because sometimes this race car has to run a bit. But I'll do what I can to share everything that's going on, and then as things progress in the other aspect of business side, it's going to be pretty darn cool if it comes to fruition. So in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to work on that, and it'll blow everybody away. All right, thank you so much. And again, if you have questions, I'm always here to answer. There's nothing that is ever too silly or too insignificant. If it means something to you, it means it's important to your family. All right, take care. Thank you, guys.